picture a simple truth that changes how you move through the world. When you read people correctly and respond with intention, most obstacles shrink. Many who feel stuck are not crushed by enemies or held back by fate. They trip over confusion, misread signals, and cling to tidy myths about fairness that rarely hold up under pressure. Think of the worker sitting alone after a dismissal, voice trembling as they explain that they followed every instruction. The missing piece was not effort, it was pattern. They did what anyone could predict. Predictability narrows your field of play, invites others to map you, and lets chance push you around. The shift begins when you study conduct as it is rather than as it ought to be. That perspective, taught for centuries by shrewd observers like Machiavelli, turns fog into contour. From that view, you learn why some advance while others circle the same ground. Write this as a quiet mental note rather than a shout. You shape outcomes when you see human nature clearly and act with care, restraint, and timing. Begin with the mirage of fragility. People often feel powerless because they were trained to avoid risk, to wait for approval, and to perform goodness like a badge that guarantees reward. You hear rules repeated so often that they sound universal. Be agreeable and doors will open. Never cause friction and people will protect you. Work loyally and recognition will arrive on schedule. These scripts comfort, yet they leave you in lines that never move. Look around. The constant yes-givers are still waiting for someone to notice. The conflict avoiders are still hoping silence will be read as virtue. The permission seekers are still asking before they step. Meanwhile, chances pass to those who experiment, who design moves rather than obey routines, who update quickly when they meet resistance. Predictable actors are convenient. Their habits are easy to manage. Their choices are easy to anticipate. If you want to stop being managed by the expectations of others, start noticing the invisible bargains in every setting. Opportunity favors those who adapt without losing their center. This is not a call to cruelty. It is a call to awareness. Social life runs on incentives, fears, pride, and limits. Loyalty thrives when interests align. Respect deepens when competence and backbone appear together. If you rely only on being liked, the bond can fray at the first strain. If you rely only on pressure, people comply in the moment and exit at the first safe chance. What lasts is the mixture of steadiness and boundary, patience and consequence, clarity and restraint. The illusion of weakness begins when you assume the world owes a response to your effort. A manager must see your diligence. A friend must prize your sacrifice. A community must reward your kindness. None of that is guaranteed. When you accept that, you stop waiting and start shaping. You refine your offer. You choose when to give and when to step back. You place your energy where it compounds rather than where it is drained. Whisper a private line to yourself and keep it. You steer your course. Learn to read people without the filter of your preferences. Disappointment usually begins with projection. You assume the other person values reliability in the same way you do, communicates with the same directness, or interprets silence as patience rather than disinterest. Every person carries private pressures, appetites, and stories that you cannot see. They care, but their care has edges. Under stress, they will count costs and prioritize their own survival. None of this is sinister. It is ordinary. The practical response is not suspicion. It is observation. Track actions more than explanations. Notice what people choose when choices are difficult. Map their true incentives rather than their slogans. When everyone expects flattery, try simple honesty. When most expect blind allegiance, try measured independence. When hesitation fills the room, speak with calm precision. These small reversals shift how others weigh your presence. People respond to consistent signals. Give signals you are willing to keep. Your reactions are a language. They broadcast your stability, your self-trust, and your readiness to handle consequence. Watch how quickly many slide from calm to agitation in small frictions like traffic or delays. Observe the person who rushes to defend every decision at the first hint of critique. The impulse to explain endlessly reads as insecurity. The quick flash of anger reads as loss of control. The frantic scramble to fix what cannot be fixed today reads as poor judgment. Power sits in the pause that separates stimulus from reply. When challenged, pause. When praised, pause. When confused, pause. In that brief stillness, you choose tactics. You do not need to be cold or robotic. You can feel everything and still act with structure. Offer patience when it lowers tension. Offer kindness when it builds durable alliances. Show vulnerability when it earns trust rather than sympathy. Avoid placing your self-worth into every small test. Make your response a decision instead of a reflex. Those who master this habit guide conversations, set tempo, and frame outcomes. Respect and boundaries operate as partners. If you chase affection without limits, people become comfortable taking without asking. If you enforce limits without warmth, people comply while they plan to leave. The durable posture blends reliability with clear lines. You show that your time has weight, your attention has scarcity, and your help has purpose, not infinite supply. You decline without apology when requests do not fit your aims. You step back from patterns that erode your energy. You avoid repetitive favors for those who never reciprocate. You call lateness and broken promises by their names, quietly and early, rather than after resentment builds. Consistency is the foundation. Fairness is the frame. Integrity is the door. When others see that you are approachable yet firm, they begin to adjust on their own. This is how influence grows without drama. It is not loud. It is steady, legible, and enforced with the same calm tone on good days and bad days. Setbacks are information. Betrayal, broken promises, and sly politics all sting, yet each carries a map if you study it. People reveal their real hierarchy of values when pressure enters the scene. A colleague who claims ownership at the last minute shows you their method. A friend who disappears when you need a witness shows you their risk tolerance. A partner who speaks of future plans but refuses present effort shows you their bargain. Most anguish comes from refusing to believe what the data says. You replay, rationalize, and write kinder interpretations because they feel better in the short term. The wiser path is not bitterness. It is record-keeping. Note the pattern. Adjust the role you allow. Remove the task from that person's reach if it requires traits they have not shown. Keep courtesy while changing proximity. The lesson is not that people are bad. The lesson is that patterns announce themselves early. When you accept them, you buy less pain later. There is an art to selective trust. The naive giver loses twice. They lose time to those who will not return it, and they lose confidence when the imbalance eventually hurts. The chronic skeptic also loses twice. They lose allies they could have gained, and they starve their own projects of the cooperation required for scale. Choose the middle path with rigor. Test in small steps. Reward reliability fast and visibly. Withhold privileges from those who have not earned them, not as punishment, but as hygiene. Clarify agreements in writing so memory does not act like a fog. Conservative structure makes generous partnership possible. You can delegate with a clear conscience when incentives are aligned, roles are explicit, and escape hatches are known. You can walk away with minimal fallout when a trial reveals what you needed to see. Judgment improves with reps. You are allowed to be slow at the beginning. You are not allowed to ignore the lesson after it appears twice. Craft your surface carefully. As one observer of statecraft noted long ago, everyone sees the show, few see the backstage. People cannot read your mind. They can only read your posture, your tone, your punctuality, your emotional budget in conflict, your willingness to carry accountability when it is heavy. Curate what you want others to infer. Be direct without sharp edges. Be confident without exhibition. Be modest without erasing your work. Late arrivals, frantic emails, and messy boundaries tell stories you do not intend to tell. So, do stability, clear deadlines, and readiness to own failure. You cannot control every judgment, yet you can reduce noise and increase signal. That is enough to tilt outcomes. Plan for fairness, but do not depend on it. Many institutions aim to reward merit, yet every institution is still run by humans. Subjective preferences, hidden pressures, and small politics remain part of the landscape. Build leverage that does not rely on any single person's favor. Grow skills that translate across contexts. Keep a record of contributions in crisp terms. Make it easy for reasonable evaluators to see what you have done. When you face gatekeeping, decide whether to root around it, win it over with undeniable value, or leave the arena that no longer fits your ambitions. Quiet stubbornness outlives most resistance. The patient builder who keeps laying bricks often wakes up in a structure that no one else believed could exist. Train attention on your own instincts. Many drift because they absorb louder voices. They try to match the dress code, pace, jokes, and preferences of whoever acts dominant in the room. A better method is alignment. Know what you want 3 moves ahead. Know the price you will not pay. Know the trade you would make if necessary. When temptation appears, you can smile and pass because you already decided yesterday what today's answer would be. When a conflict reaches your desk, you can de-escalate or escalate because you already mapped the branches. This is not rigidity. It is preparation that makes adaptation faster. You become light on your feet because you have a compass rather than because you have no direction. Your circle matters. If you keep company with those who treat effort as theater, you will measure yourself by applause. If you keep company with those who treat effort as a tool, you will measure yourself by effect. Find peers who speak plainly, protect time, and share credit. Seek mentors who value outcomes over noise. Help those below you in rank without turning your day into rescue missions. The correct habit is generosity with structure. Offer feedback that is specific. Share playbooks, not platitudes. Protect your mornings. Give introductions that make sense. Decline invitations that do not fit your current build. Your future self will thank you for the dull discipline you kept while others chased novelty. Language shapes perception. The words you use to describe situations will train your responses. If you speak as if you are always the victim of unseen forces, you begin to act like someone without agency. If you speak as if every setback is a field report, you begin to look for variables you can adjust. Replace "they always ignore me" with "my value is not visible to the right people yet." Replace "no one helps me" with "I have not built the coalition this task requires." Replace "the system is rigged" with "the environment is costly, so I will either change it, leave it, or learn the rules that reduce the cost." This language does not sugarcoat. It assigns tasks to you that you can complete. Power grows in small completed tasks. Emotions are not the enemy. They are signals. Fear warns you of a real risk or a ghost story. Pride tells you where your identity is tied too tightly to external gestures. Envy points toward an unmet desire dressed up as judgment. Gratitude stabilizes you when uncertainty shakes your grip. Use each properly. If fear is real, mitigate the risk. If fear is fantasy, walk through it with a controlled exposure plan. If pride is blocking an apology, apologize so the team can move. If envy is whispering, ask what skill you can develop that would make the whisper lose volume. If gratitude arrives, state it out loud so others know the ledger is not one way. This is quiet strength. You do not pretend to feel nothing. You channel what you feel into choices with upside. Tactics matter. Set explicit time windows for deep work. Close the door, silence notifications, and tell your circle when you will be available again. Keep a daily list of 3 outcomes that count and finish them first. Prepare short written briefs before important conversations so you are not improvising under stress. When conflict looms, identify your non-negotiables, your flexible points, and your walk-away line before the first meeting. When making requests, tie them to shared goals, state what you need, and propose the next action. When declining, thank, decline, propose an alternative if appropriate, and end cleanly. Practice these moves until they feel natural. Strategy without practice is a slogan. Practice without strategy is noise. Together they form competence. Guard your reputation. Not the glossy kind built on slogans, but the practical one that other competent people use to decide whether to work with you. Do you finish what you start? Do you admit when you are wrong? Do you adjust when data changes? Do you keep confidences? Do you treat people the same when no one important is watching? These are boring questions with enormous consequences. If your answers are mostly yes, doors open that are never advertised. People who can choose start choosing you. That is quiet leverage. You do not need to demand respect. It arrives because you have made neglect expensive. Be patient on horizons and urgent in daily execution. The impatient want visible status immediately. They chase titles, logo associations, and social proof. The patient build skills, libraries of examples, and battle-tested systems that produce results more than they produce noise. Urgency applies to the next step. Patience applies to the compounding curve. If you ship something every day that matters a little, the slope improves. If you learn one new tool each quarter and use it in public, your leverage multiplies. If you let time do what time does to disciplined effort, the difference between you and your past self becomes shocking. When you slip, and you will, fall forward. Review the tape. Identify the decision point you rushed, the person you misread, the boundary you failed to set, or the emotion you let steer. Fix one element at a time. Build a checklist that prevents the same error. Share the improvement with your team so your loss becomes their insulation. Then return to the work with humor and steadiness. Drama burns fuel. Curiosity generates fuel. Choose the one that keeps you moving. As you absorb these lessons, keep a final picture in mind. The world rarely hands out neat victories. It rewards clarity, steadiness, and useful courage. The person who sees human nature as it is, who responds rather than reacts, who balances warmth with boundary, and who turns discouragement into data, will keep gaining ground while others become stories about potential. Carry one short line with you like a pocket coin. I choose my stance. I place my energy where it multiplies. I move with intention even when the path is not perfect. Quietly, consistently, you replace waiting with building and hope with design. Every lesson leaves a mark that you can use, adding judgment, stamina, and sharper sight. You grow through difficulty, learn to choose with care, and move with fewer blind spots the next time life tests you. Carry that learner's mindset into every season, and you begin to look sturdy on the outside because you are steady within. Quietly repeat a simple line and let it guide your posture. Challenges educate me. From that starting point, practice healthy distance from outcomes. The person who prospers in demanding arenas does not cling to a single result for self-worth. They aim high, yet they refuse to let a win or a loss decide their peace. They enjoy being respected, yet they do not spend their days chasing applause. They love people, yet they never outsource identity to any relationship. This space between your heart and your hopes becomes unshakable confidence. Without neediness, you decide from strength. When you can leave a bad deal, observers take your standards seriously. When you are not married to a specific ending, your choices become clearer and wiser because you can see the board without fog. Many live in constant craving. They believe the job must be secured at any price. The manager's nod must be earned, no matter the compromise. The connection must be preserved even when it erodes dignity. That hunger makes a person easy to read, easy to pressure, and easy to steer. One old analyst of power warned that those who ignore the world as it is for the world as it should be often harm themselves. True detachment is not apathy. It is intelligent care. You invest with focus while preparing alternatives. You hope for the best and construct cushions for the hard day. You exit rooms that poison your calm because serenity outranks the fear of losing an attachment. You ask for fair treatment at work because you are building options, not begging for permission. You attract serious people because you honor yourself instead of chasing validation from those who never plan to give it. Paradoxically, the person who is not desperate becomes compelling. The one who does not cling becomes valuable. The one who releases outcomes gains a freer hand to shape them. Detachment grows from options. Create more than one path for income, more than one door for housing, more than one route for advancement, more than one way to experience love and belonging. Options produce liberty, and liberty breeds calm. Detachment grows from inner wealth. Stop trading your worth for other people's approval. Build real ability, complete meaningful projects, and design daily rhythms you enjoy without a crowd. Detachment grows from practice. Walk away from lopsided agreements, from casual disrespect, from loops that drain your spirit. The more you rehearse the exit, the steadier your presence becomes. The person who can part from anything approaches everything with poise. The one who needs nothing is capable of creating anything. The one who ties identity to principles instead of outcomes performs well without losing composure. Breathe a new sentence into your day and keep it close. I move with freedom that is not for sale. Another tool is quiet. Restraint and mystery expand your reach. The fewer people who feel entitled to your plans, the more they mind your boundaries. The less you narrate, the more each sentence matters. The less you scatter personal data, the more others weigh your insights. Many sabotage themselves by talking beyond necessity. They justify every choice to audiences who did not ask. They announce intentions before they are ready to execute. They disclose wounds to those who cannot hold them with care. The result is noise. Their life becomes an open file that anyone can misread. A different way is to let the surface be clean and the interior be focused. Everyone observes what is on display. Very few will ever touch the core. Silence creates room for noticing, for measuring the mood, for seeing signals that constant speech would bury. When you wait a moment before you answer, people recognize your steadiness. When you keep a developing idea in your notebook instead of on your tongue, others begin to respect your discretion. When you reserve your private reflections for contexts that deserve them, you protect clarity and reduce friction. The person who excels here does not attempt to dominate every conversation. They ask precise questions, listen for patterns, and gather context while keeping their own compass shielded. This is not withdrawal from society. It is strategic communication. Be warm without turning your calendar into a confessional. Be open without leaking attention. Be social without losing the sharp edge of focus. Think of the most effective builders you know. They reveal conclusions when action is near, not drafts that can be derailed by spectators. They allow room for curiosity about their methods while they retain control of the plan. You can practice this in simple moves. Stop explaining yourself to those who did not request an explanation. Your choices do not require essays to be legitimate. Keep plans private until the structure is real. Not every contact must know the next step at once. Accept pauses in dialogue rather than rushing to fill them. Comfortable quiet lets reflection form, and tactical quiet invites others to offer information while you record. The one who speaks less often communicates more. The one who shares less often understands more. The one who keeps a bit of mystery often commands the room without force. People honor what they cannot fully predict. They prize what they cannot easily replace. They listen when someone chooses words with care. Become deliberate, measured, and purposeful in the way you share. You will notice that your influence grows while your stress falls. Add a brief line to anchor the habit. Depth in silence gives me reach. Boldness shapes luck. Some stand by the window waiting for a cloudless sky. Others step outside and build with what they have. Some hope for fortune to smile. Others gather skill, study the terrain, and push when the odds are acceptable. Some wait for authorization. Others give themselves the first green light and move with intention. Good breaks lean toward the person who acts because movement uncovers paths that sitting could not reveal. While an overthinker holds a private debate that never ends, the mover decides, adapts, and learns. While a committee argues over perfect timing, the builder experiments and gains data. While someone asks for another week, another month, another year, the doer finishes a small piece and wins momentum. One seasoned observer of statecraft wrote that chance rules a portion of events, yet a large portion remains open to discipline and choice. Many live at the mercy of incoming demands. They drift from email to complaint to trend, always reacting. They keep waiting for an invitation from the future. They keep hoping for a scene change without a script. The proactive person does not need perfect weather. Perfection seldom arrives. They do not require a permission slip. Initiative is within reach. They do not demand guarantees. Life rarely offers them. This is not recklessness. It is calculated courage. The biggest hazard for many is the refusal to risk at all. The reckless lose because they do not measure cost. The careful learner wins because they take measured bets repeatedly and refine through feedback. Cultivate boldness in steps. Begin small so failure is cheap. Ask for a minor introduction. Place a modest pilot order. Test a tiny version of the idea. Let confidence expand with evidence. Assess before you leap. Name the worst plausible outcome, the true probability, and the recovery plan. If you can absorb the hit, the step is likely worth taking. If you cannot, reshape the plan until the downside fits your current strength. Move promptly once you choose. Long delays invite doubt, and doubt invites paralysis. Swift, deliberate motion compounds energy. Review and adjust after each attempt. Not every push will work. That is the point. Outcomes teach detail that theories cannot. Growth comes from cycles of try, learn, and revise. The world tends to cooperate with those who are present and active. Openings reward participants. Progress travels toward execution. While others search for flawless conditions, you take a thoughtful step. While others plan endlessly, you complete a draft. While others pray for luck, you plant many seeds and water them consistently. Let a short statement sit on your desk. I make luck by moving. Reputation is a key asset. It opens quiet doors, creates offers you never see posted, and creates trust before the first meeting begins. An unshakable personal brand grows from evidence that repeats. People learn that when you commit, you deliver. When you promise, you honor the promise. When you set a line, you defend it with calm firmness. Reliability is noticed, and once it is noticed, it multiplies. Respect feeds confidence. Confidence feeds credibility, and credibility strengthens reputation in a healthy loop. A famous Florentine noted that most judge by appearances because only a few can test the substance. Everyone sees the show. Very few feel the craft. If you want your presence to be difficult to undermine, cultivate the inner reality, not just the surface. You cannot pose as steady forever. You cannot fake mastery for long. The foundation is work on yourself. Start with awareness. Name your strengths honestly. Name your weak spots without drama. Track the reflexes that get you in trouble and the environments that bring out your best. You cannot steer what you refuse to see. Build discipline next. Do what you said, especially when no one is watching. Show up at the hour you chose. Keep the promises you made to yourself because that is where self-respect begins. Discipline plants trust. Trust becomes respect. Respect gives you a platform to influence outcomes for good. Then practice self-reliance. Do not place your joy or your identity in other people's pockets. Do not wait for institutional permission to build a life that fits. The more you rely on your own judgment and capability, the steadier you feel in storms. When you combine public consistency with private mastery, you form a presence that is difficult to shake. Sabotage has little to grip when your record is clean, your preparation is strong, and your choices are principled. Control games fail when you have options and do not need to trade your values for comfort. Manipulation loses leverage when you operate from clarity, not from craving. Untouchable here does not mean isolated. It means engaged from a stable core. It means deep friendships without emotional dependency. It means enjoying success while remembering that status is a tool, not your soul. It means accepting respect with gratitude while understanding that worth existed before applause. You have now traced a set of enduring patterns for influence and personal power. Strength is built, not gifted. Results tend to favor those who think clearly, act with intent, and understand human currents instead of pretending those currents do not exist. Information without motion has limited value. Rules without rehearsal do not produce competence. Insight without practice leaves you stuck at the doorway. History has already shown that these patterns work. The open question is your courage to live them. Will you read people as they are, or will you remain blurry? Will you manage your reactions, or will every critic own your mood? Will you draw and keep lines, or will you keep wondering why others step over you? Will you treat setbacks as data, or will you carry frustration like a flag? Will you detach from outcomes enough to choose well, or will you let need run your calendar? Will you guard words and use silence with care, or will you narrate every move to audiences who do not have your interests at heart? Will you take measured action, or will you wait for flawless certainty that never comes? Will you assemble a durable identity, or will you live vulnerable to every gust of opinion? The answers shape your route. They decide whether you build or drift, whether you lead your days or accept whatever they bring. Remember that the Florentine secretary did not invent human nature. He described it. He wrote patterns that any careful observer could verify. He left a map. Your task is to walk it with integrity and skill. Endurance and influence are not inherited gifts. They are learned behaviors, shaped by repetition, improved by honest feedback, made solid by a willingness to see clearly and act wisely. Nothing can keep you small once you integrate these habits. Understanding is the first gate. Application is the second. Embodiment is the third. Let the ideas settle into your posture until they feel natural. The world needs your competence. Your family and friends benefit when you are steady. Your future self waits on the decisions you make in ordinary hours. Choose to begin rather than postpone. If what you have read opened a window on how power actually moves, then keep studying and keep practicing. Share the principles with those who are ready. Return to the drills whenever you slip. Improvement loves repetition. Whisper one last line that cements your stance and then step forward. I am capable, prepared, and unstoppable in quiet ways. Your move counts,